Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Forced Fandom, the show where one person tries to force another to like the things that they love. I'm here for episode 4 of the first season with Emily Bamforth, renowned internet journalist and Kanye lover. But we're not here to talk about the life of Pablo. We're here to talk about episode 4 of Twin Peaks, aka Rest in Pain. So, welcome back, Emily. How are you?
Doing just dandy. Doing just dandy. Thanks for using the adjective renowned.
I would consider you renowned at what you do.
Hmm, that's sweet of you.
I guess so. So, what did you think of this week's episode?
I liked it. I liked it. I think that it calmed a lot of my fears about the show because this was not quite the surrealist masterpiece that was episode 3.
Which you
And
were
yeah,
not a fan of, if people haven't seen that episode.
no, to catch you up, last time on hashtag forced fandom, Emily really did not want to watch more Twin Peaks. But this got a lot more realistic. It kind of explained a little bit um, what was happening with that whole surrealism thing. It still didn't explain why it happened because it's surrealism, but it did kind of like loop it back into into the plot in a way that I really liked.
Yeah, I think my one gripe with the dream sequence in episode 3 is that you get no time to process it before the episode ends, which I'm sure was intentional, but a lot
Mhm.
of this time of the time in this episode is spent processing that dream sequence, which I think is
Mhm.
needed.
Yeah, I agree. It takes a breather from like some of the more wacky elements. And I think that was really, really needed after last week's episode.
So our basic plot for this episode, as much as there's a basic plot in this show, is that everyone is preparing for and then going to Laura Palmer's funeral. So I guess pre-funeral, we peek into the lives of everybody as they're getting ready or not getting ready or saying they're going to go and not saying they're going to go, and there's lots of drama. Did any of that stand out to you in particular?
So much drums. Uh, I like that Ed and Norma are back on their particular track. They seem like, well, at least Norma loves Ed
You
very,
mean
very.
Nadine?
Oh, yes. Not, why
Because
was
Ed actually
I,
loves Norma.
the end names. Yes, Nadine, not Norma. I don't care about Norma. Nadine is Bay, but uh, that was really cool. But then James comes in, and you actually like. What's funny is that James is Nadine's like
James is Ed's nephew.
yeah, that whole thing. Like you never really get that until like that episode. Like they never mention it until they're like, "Oh, now you know why like Ed and James hang around all the time." I thought
Well,
there was
Ed picks James up from the police station.
maybe I just missed it then. Like maybe it just went over
Yeah,
my
I think
head.
you just missed it because they mention it pretty explicitly at the police station.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, James said he wasn't going to go to the funeral and then showed up anyway, because he's James and punchable to the
And
end.
he kind of does get punched, actually.
He does by our favorite man, Bobby.
So I don't want to get straight into the funeral because we do have a few other things to talk about, like getting Laura's body to the funeral. So Cooper is explaining his dream at the Great Northern, and we can come back to that if we need to. But then they get called to the hospital because Albert is having a fight with the doctor, and then he has a fight with Sheriff Truman.
And we see Agent Cooper be mad for like the first time ever.
Yeah, that scene has always just been very odd to me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I've never really, I don't know. Seeing Agent Cooper be mad makes you think, like, is this how he is always? Or is he like like, is he a different person when he's not in the woods? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
like at work, is he like this hard ass or what have you, or is this just his management style? But like we all knew that Albert thing was going to come. Like we all knew that there was going to be that conflict, and we all knew that he was approaching it from a very detached viewpoint, which nobody in Twin Peaks is detached from anything. So,
Certainly not.
no, definitely not. Especially not Laura Palmer, because everybody has some connection to Laura Palmer. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a uncomfortable scene, but I think it all's well that ends well, I guess.
Sure. So then we go to the Palmer's house, and cousin Maddie shows up.
Yeah, who that's the same actress, right?
Yes, I was wondering if you would pick up on that.
Yeah,
Um,
which is funny. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, she becomes a fairly important character, but basically, David Lynch was so impressed with Cheryl Lee, who played Laura Palmer, in the short scenes that they shot, that he decided he wanted to actually write a character into the show for her.
Oh, that's so neat. Yeah, they are definitely getting their mileage out of her paycheck. So,
Yeah.
um, no, she seems like she's going to be important, and the whole cousin thing is going to be interesting. I'm
Uh,
excited to see where that goes.
Good. So then there's a slight subplot with Norma involving her incarcerated husband.
Yeah, he's yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure
Once
if you cared
again,
about that. You really just
I
don't care
told
about
her.
Norma.
No, I really don't. I like Nadine, and I think it's going to be interesting when the husband gets out of jail, but like, that's about it.
Okay.
Also, she's sassy as F.
Yeah, she's super sassy. She holds her own.
She does indeed. Good on her.
So then Bobby or Cooper interviews Leo.
Hmm.
That was pretty awkward.
That didn't go well now.
How are you feeling about Leo at this point?
He hit. That was a beautiful noise. He hit her in the face with a sock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like not too pleased with him and the way he's not cooperating with police, and but like I don't think that makes him a killer. I think that just like makes him very, very unlikable, and maybe that's where this whole thing is leading us. Is like you really, really dislike this character, but wait, he's not.
Well, and we're also jumping ahead a little bit. He's involved with the Renault brothers, Bernard and Jacques.
Oh, the crack people?
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I mean, he's definitely up to something. But you don't think it's murder?
I don't think it's murder. I think it's drugs. I think it's domestic abuse. I don't think it's murder. The fact he drives all like over the place is very telling that he's probably involved in drugs. So,
This is true. And speaking of drugs, the test results come back. Surprise, surprise. The bag was full of cocaine. Laura had taken cocaine. Um,
girl has a habit.
yes. Those are Albert's exact words, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Um,
Your girl has a habit.
so then, some interesting details on Laura's murder. She was tied up twice once at two different locations.
Mm-hmm. Her arms bend back.
They do.
Like sometimes my arms bend back.
Um, the killer leaned in for a kiss,
Yeah, that was grody.
and there were animal and claw marks on her.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what to make of that.
So overall, what's your impression of the test results and situation of Laura's death?
It ties it back to that surrealism bet, so that's neat. I'm glad those test results are done. This whole thing, this guy, he seems like not your average psychopath. Like he's not like it didn't it was not just some random guy, you know what I mean? Like it's not some random guy just coming through and like grabbing her and like
You think
killing
this was
her.
more deliberate than some drifter?
It seems like the guy was obsessed with her, and a lot of guys were obsessed with her. So, like, the guy who leaned in for a kiss before he killed her probably, like, he knew her and was obsessed with her. That's what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
This whole thing definitely implies that.
Yeah, that is a very strange detail that I didn't really. I mean, I picked up on it in the very superficial sense on my first watch through, but in
Mhm.
subsequent watchings, yeah, there's just something off about that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird way to do it. And the fact that, like, she was tied up twice. Like, this means he untied her, moved her, and then tied her up again. So,
Yeah.
not, yeah. There's another, like, there's also, like, two different scenes where this happened. So,
So moving forward from that, Audrey's snooping around on her parents.
so she is, though she didn't find very much. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think she did. Like, all she found out is like her brother needs professional help and her parents are concerned that they can't help by themselves and they're gonna have to call this doctor. Um, yeah. Also, we never talked about her breakfast with Agent Cooper.
Oh, do you want to talk about her breakfast with Agent Cooper? I know you ship.
Yes,
Well, you don't ship them. You ship Diane and Cooper, right?
for life.
So this must have been a hard breakfast for you to watch.
Cooper is not into her. He's not into her. He's using her, which is interesting because you wouldn't think that he'd be able to use, I'm making everything shake. You wouldn't think he'd be able to use anyone, but I guess it's part of his job. Like, he's not just like this innocent guy wandering around smelling trees, eating pie, drinking coffee. Like, he's an FBI agent. He's trained. He's like out there for a reason. And one of those reasons is to manipulate Audrey into telling him about One Eye Jacks.
That's
And
fair.
so, yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with romantic interest. I think it has to do with getting her to speak because she is going to be very helpful to him, I feel.
And I guess while we've backtracked to the Great Northern for breakfast, any thoughts on the conversation between Harry, Lucy, and Cooper about the dream?
The fact he doesn't remember the name of the killer doesn't surprise me. That's about it. Like, that's all.
Yeah, then the
But the
show would
fact
end
that
in
they
episode
just,
4.
yeah, the fact that they buy into this so fully is so interesting to me. Like, if anybody else was like, if I was like working with somebody on a criminal case and they were like, it came to me in a dream, then I would be like, cool, that's probably not how this would work since that's not a real thing. But they're like, oh, tell me more. Who's the killer? Like that kind of thing. Like, they don't even question it.
Yeah, that I'm sure that strikes you as odd as somebody who's not super into surrealism.
It strikes me as odd thinking about the contrast so far between that surrealism and the Twin Peaks real world with the mill politics and the very real characters. Like, it's just weird that these two people just accept this for canon, basically.
So, speaking of mill politics, we got some mill politics this episode. Who's excited about mill politics? Not Emily.
Never.
So, it doesn't
So
intrigue you
much.
that
No.
Catherine knows that Josie knows about the ledger?
I think I was distracted during that particular part because I so don't care about it. Um, no, sure, great. That's not great for Josie, is it?
No. And Josie's sleeping with Sheriff Truman, but I think that was pretty well implied.
The Yeah, cool.
Okay, yay, mill politics. This ends our segment on mill politics.
We need like a little intro for our
We
segment
do.
on.
We need a mill politics intro. It's got to be like a really bizarre version of the House of Cards theme. Um,
Or just like the the opening bit, the bit of House of Cards
yes, I
opening.
love it. All right. So let's
Noted.
let's talk about the funeral.
Okay.
So James decides to show up.
As he does. Nobody asked you to be there, James.
Lots
Nobody
of
needs you there.
lots of other people are there. Pretty much everybody on the show is there,
Which never ever happens.
right?
Like, you never see them all together.
Yeah, this is one of the only times in the whole series that you'll see the whole cast in one place.
That must be fun for them.
Yeah,
The cast members, not like, the characters. The
right.
characters probably weren't a great time.
Including your favorite character.
Bobby.
Oh, that wasn't who I was talking about. I was talking about your actual favorite character.
My actual favorite character.
Yeah, she's standing right next to the Reverend.
No! No, I didn't see her!
Yeah, Log
How
Lady and her log are at the funeral.
How did I miss Long Lady?
She doesn't say anything. She just stands next to the minister through the whole funeral.
I'm gonna have to go rewatch that now. Ugh.
She doesn't do anything. She just stands there.
Yeah, but I gotta watch her. She's my bae.
Well,
Besides
she's there.
Laura.
And the Reverend prays.
Yes.
And then, do you want to walk us through what happens after the prayer?
No, you can go ahead and do that.
Well, Johnny says amen.
Yes.
And then Bobby starts saying amen.
Because he's an asshole.
And then Bobby is really, really mean.
He's not wrong though. Like he's definitely not wrong.
So, at what point did you realize that this was not going to be a normal funeral?
I mean, it's Twin Peaks, so probably.
Good, I'm glad that's your answer, because Bobby yells at everyone and says that they all killed Laura by
Which,
ignoring her
once
problems.
again, is not wrong.
And then Bobby and James get in a fight.
That's wrong. They shouldn't have done that. I don't know why they got in such a bad fight. Like, James just walked over, and then Bobby was like, I'm gonna kill you, bro. And I'm like, okay, calm down. Like, all of you just shush.
Well, I think
This is a
Bobby
funeral.
knows that Laura was secretly dating James.
This is a funeral. This isn't like a random bar where you defeat millions of men as a high school football player.
No, you mean like the Roadhouse scene in episode 1?
Oh yeah, I might be making that reference.
Oh boy. So then at the end of the funeral,
Yes.
something else interesting happens. Do you remember?
Yes. Her father jumps on top of the casket. Is that what you're referring to?
That is what I'm referring to. I was trying to see if you were paying attention, because I know you probably got distracted by the fight.
I did get distracted by the fight. I got distracted by everything enough not to notice the log lady.
Yeah, that's why I'm like quizzing you. I want to make sure that you're paying attention.
I am paying attention, I promise.
So, I mean, Mr.
He's just
Palmer.
out of it now. He's
Who?
just
Mr.
gone.
Palmer? He's like totally
Yeah.
gone?
He's just gone. Like, he's just, like, why Mrs. Palmer had the, like, oh, it made me so mad when she walked up and was like, you have to ruin this too? It's his child. Like, come
Well, it's her child too.
Yeah, but, like, he's mentally unhinged, and she should understand that.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Funerals are not for the dead. Funerals are for the living.
Or if you ask Bobby, funerals are for no one.
Funerals are for fighting.
So then we get a commercial break. And we're at the Double R Diner, where Big Ed tells Harry, careful who you trust, he's just not one of us, referring to Cooper. My question for you is, do you trust Cooper?
No.
Really?
Because that's the point of the whole episode, isn't it? To show that he might not be able, like, you might not be able to trust him. Like, I trust him in the way that he's an FBI agent there to do his job. That is what he's there for. That is the end of the line. You may not be able to take him into the back and show him your secret boys club. That may not be like what he's there for. He's not your pal. He's not your buddy. He's there to help you solve a murder.
But they do. They take him to the book house.
Yes, they do, which was not a great idea because he just looks like scared the entire time. Also, what's with the red light?
Oh, okay. We'll get to the red light in a second.
Hmm.
So they mentioned that somebody's running cocaine, and they think it's Jacques Renault. And then they go to the book house.
Yeah.
Random fun fact, there's apparently a bar here in Atlanta called the Book House that is Twin Peaks themed and has like portraits of all the characters on the walls, and I'm totally going to check it out. I'm very excited.
That is very exciting.
So they go to the book house.
Please take a picture of it when you do and use the hashtag forced fandom.
I will. I actually will. I'm hoping the coffee is free.
What about the pie? Maybe there's a really good pie.
There probably is really good pie. So they go to the book house and they meet Bernard Renault. And he does cocaine, but he doesn't move cocaine. He just has an ounce of cocaine for personal use.
It's for him.
Right. And so this is where the red light comes in.
Yes.
So I'm just going to go ahead and explain it because you probably don't. Like, it's a big leap. So apparently Bernard...
Wait, are there spoilers in here?
No. It's just something that's not written into the script because they expect you to get it. So...
They've never met me.
Right. So I guess either Bernard flipped the switch on the light before he left the roadhouse, or after he was questioned by the Bookhouse boys, he flipped the light to let Jacques know that the police were looking for him. And so that's why he calls Leo and has Leo run him up to Canada.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah. It's not explained very well. Like, I feel like they probably could have done a little bit of a better job on that.
Yeah, probably. Seeing as I was just like, there's a red light, and now everybody's flipping out.
Yeah, well, basically, Leo and Jacques and Bernard are all working together.
Yeah, I got that, kind of. I got at least 2/3 of that. So.
Yeah. And so Leo leaves right as Shelley walks into the house.
Yes, and then there's the gun.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Yeah, I know. But it's there now. That's concerning.
Your face is so gifable. We already talked about Catherine. Then Agent Cooper visits Laura's grave, but there's somebody else there.
Yeah, Dr. Jacoby.
Yeah. Dr. Jacoby's pretty upset.
He's racked with guilt, as all good Dr. Jacoby should be. He's sad because he didn't want to go to Laura's funeral because Laura was the patient that made him start caring again. Everybody else is just a paycheck, but he liked Laura.
Any thoughts on that other than reciting the dialogue?
Cool. Like, I still have no read on what Dr. Jacoby, like, I have no read on him. I don't know if he's involved in the murder. I don't know whether he's unhinged. Though, if there was ever a man that was obsessed with Laura that would pin her arms back, maybe it would be Dr. Jacoby.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Maybe
not. I don't know.
So this episode ends back at the Great Northern where we started, with Cooper and Hawk having a beer.
Yes.
And Cooper asks Hawk, do you believe in the soul? And they're talking about souls, and then Mr. Palmer shows up and starts dancing? Can we call that dancing?
Can we dance? Please dance with me, please. That was really sad. I almost started crying at that.
Really?
Yeah, because he just wants to. Look, I was about to say he just wants to dance, but that makes it sound like he's like obsessed with dancing. He just wants to dance. No, that's not what the problem is. He just wants to dance with his daughter. And like she's not there, and that's really sad. And it's sad to watch this man slowly crumble. Like it's really, really sad. And it doesn't look even like it's an alcohol-based thing. It doesn't look like that. It just looks like he's so sad about this. And
Yeah, he's
his
definitely
marriage
a
is
wreck.
failed too. Like the statistics are not good on which is like acting like this is a real thing, but like they're probably gonna get divorced.
You think they're gonna get divorced? Wow,
TBAs.
that's
Well,
intense. That's an intense prediction.
I'm
You
just
have no
saying.
faith in the Palmers' marriage?
No,
Wow.
I have no faith in any of the freaking marriages in Twin Peaks except for Donna's parents, who are awesome.
That's fair. They are like the most solid couple.
They are.
All
They're a good
right,
team.
so in comments last week, the author of the Nerdist recaps that you've been using to prepare for the show actually commented on our episode.
What? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he commented and thanked us for citing his recaps, but then he also said, if Emily disliked the thing that makes Twin Peaks the most Twin Peaks, maybe she should just be allowed to stop watching now? Which, of course, isn't how this podcast works.
No, definitely not.
But now that we are halfway through the first season, I wanted to know where this sits with you. You've gotten a taste for the show, you've gotten a taste for fans of the show on Reddit and in comments. How are you feeling about all this right now?
Sorry, I'm still struck that the author of those recaps are he's reading or watching because I read another one this week.
Which we will cite in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. I also appreciate you trying to get me out of this. But that's not going to happen. And honestly, it got better this week. It really actually did. I saw how this surrealism element was, which makes me sound like I'm like doing a like lecture about a book. But I'm not. I think what alarmed me is that it was so out of context and it was so different and it was never explained and nothing was linked to it. Um, I think that's what really alarmed me, and it made me think that this scene was going to be how the rest of the episodes were, and I think that it was done in a really great way. And I think that the episode following it has probably been that was probably one of my favorite episodes of the four that I've watched. But no, I really like the way they started linking back to that. Um, yeah, I feel better off. I
Good.
do. And I feel more invested in some of the characters. Even though one of my favorite characters, Nadine, I continue to call her Norma. But like, I don't know. It's growing on me. It takes a while, and I'm not used to this. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not used to
There's
shows like this,
Yeah, there's a lot to get used to.
and I'm not used to watching things week by week right now. Like I used to be before Netflix, and now I'm like 12 episodes of House of Cards. Sure, that's a thing, and it's more of a season by season thing as opposed to this, which is supposed to be viewed week by week. And obviously, they would put the surrealism element at the end so that everybody would talk about it and then come back the next week. Like, that's what that was there for. And so I guess I kind of understand it a little bit more. And I want to keep watching.
Good. And that was kind of my plan in doing this week by week, because we could have done a block of like
That's my plan.
no, it was because we could have like watched an episode recorded for an entire day and just recorded this whole podcast in a weekend. But I don't feel like it would have had the same effect on you. Do you agree?
No. I would have cried and also got very sick of you.
Yeah. So I think doing it weekly has helped both our friendship and your appreciation of the show.
Yeah, because I probably would have killed you,
Oh,
to be
thanks.
honest. Yeah. No, it's fine. Like if you did that with anybody, you would kill them. Like that is just like a lot of talking.
Yeah, I mean that would be half hour for each episode. There are 8 episodes, so that'd be 4 hours plus our episode before, and we're gonna do an epilogue episode afterwards. So
Are we? I
we
didn't know
are.
that.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're gonna do a little recap.
cool.
But here at the halfway point, I just have one more question for you before we close it out for the week. Who do you think killed Laura Palmer?
Bob.
It's a pretty good answer since they literally told you that Bob killed her.
Deductions by Emily. Let's wrap this up.
All right, Emily. Well, if people want to talk about this episode with you, where can they find you?
I'll be starstruck over at Emily M. Bamforth on Twitter.
And if you want to find me, you can follow me on Twitter at TCOLMSTEAD. We will also be posting the show, as always, in r/Twin Peaks and r/The Black Lodge, who are awesome and very good friends of ours. Thank
You
you all.
guys are so neat. I
And
like you.
yeah, and we feel for the R Twin Peaks community as they go through all of their mod issues and problems with Reddit. So we don't want to exclude either subreddit. We're not trying to pick sides in this situation, but people seem to love the show, and we love that you guys love it. So we're going to keep on doing it. Until next week, we will be watching more Twin Peaks. See ya.